If the general is here, we can call this meeting to order with the quorum being present. All right, you have the consent agenda there. You want to?
Yeah, a couple changes to the consent. There's one addition. We would like to hire Emily Whitaker as a 7th grade ELA teacher. This was the position that Dawn Gastineau had been hired for, and then she moved to elementary. So middle school has been frantically trying to fill that position, and they've found a nice candidate. She's a young girl that'll be finishing up her education this year, so we'll have her on a sub certificate until she's ready to student teach then in the spring, and then we'll already have her in our system. So we would recommend that hire. And then also on the consent agenda, no need for a closed session tonight, so I'll take that off of the agenda.
Any questions concerning the consent agenda items?
The only thing you missed was consent
She
agenda.
notified us that she was going to be a few minutes late. You didn't let us know your nap went overtime.
We had a new baby.
Before.
So
Oh,
I had to
yeah.
get my niece from the hospital.
Oh,
Okay,
congratulations.
that's all I have for that.
Any questions?
I do have one question. I said I was gonna ask.
Oh.
But I'm gonna ask one.
Yeah.
Do you have I'm sure that there's a process in place when you hire somebody in on that, right? I mean, like you team them up, there's a whole.
Yeah, oh yeah,
procedure that
they'll
goes
get a
along
mentor teacher to be with them, and then she'll be teaching under that sub certification, and then she'll move to a provisional certification in January.
Right.
Do her student teaching with a mentor teacher that watches over her, and then she'll be fully certified.
Other teachers, principal,
Oh,
everybody's
yeah,
involved in the
everybody's,
process
yes.
of
Yeah.
ensuring that that's.
Yeah, and at this point, this is not something we would necessarily look to if we were doing the hiring in March or April.
Right.
But in July, from everything we've heard, she's gonna be a phenomenal teacher, so.
Anyone going into 7th grade language arts as their first teaching experience is going to need lots of support.
That's right, amen.
Yeah. All right, then a motion would be in order to approve consent agenda items as presented.
I got one other question.
Oh,
On my,
sure.
I didn't get a total. on
That's
what-
because we don't have the total
Okay.
yet, because it's July 1.
Okay,
Really bad time to have a board meeting July 1, because this is the first day of the new fiscal year. It's also the first day of the new month, and our bookkeeper is not in the office right now, so
so
we'll have all of that in
we'll have a
August.
couple in August.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry, Mac.
No.
And I'll send out a bear report with the total from June as well, so, yeah.
If I hadn't talked to him earlier, I would have been wondering the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good question,
Now
good
I
question.
All right, so now, is there a motion to approve
So
consent
moved.
agenda items?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, then we'll move on to your report.
Yep, I don't know why that won't click, but anyway, opening statements, no MSBA report this month. Again, it's July 1st, so MSBA hasn't put out their monthly statement, so I don't have that for you. I do have a bit of a legislative update that just came today. I got an email from Carla Esslinger, who's our Commissioner for Education. I'm just gonna read a portion of her email, but the governor signed the FY26 budget into effect yesterday, and so it's a very positive signature for public education. He fully funded the formula, which includes a $500 million increase, fully funded transportation with an additional $15 million increase, and a $33.4 million teacher baseline salary grant is fully funded. So those are all things we expected, but maybe a little bit more on the formula side. So that's another reason August will be a big budget discussion, because we'll have to run some new numbers and kind of see where that puts us for next year, but that's good news,
Those are
actually.
positive,
from
so.
Yes, very, very positive from the state legislator, and, so, yeah, that was good, and some of the things we were hoping for now are signed, and we can kind of move forward until he signs it. There's always line item vetoes and things that can happen, I know. Houston was hoping for a track, and that got vetoed by the governor, so.
You said, I always ask this question, I think it's always the same answer. They say fully funded transportation.
Yeah, but it's
That's
not.
really not fully.
Right.
Was what, is it 75 or something, 75%?
It used to
Yeah.
be 70,
I think
wasn't
it's
it?
70.
70 is, yeah.
But then did you say?
There is an additional-
10 million or something?
Fully funding transportation at that rate with an additional 15 million increase, so I'm not sure where that 15 million goes, whether that's just distributed among everybody and they raise that percentage, or if that's for other direct line items. I'll have to check on that. But yeah, those are all good things.
That sounds good when they say it that way.
Yeah, well, that's important for the politicians to be able to say that. I think, what was the line? A historic public education signature. On a local level, want to give you some updates on some of our summer projects going on. We have an amazing maintenance, custodial, tech
Wow.
crew that have been working. I mean, summertime is their time to really get in and work. And if you walk around campus, parts of it are kind of a mess, but the deep cleaning that's going on and some of the renovations. So this is in the MoDOT building, not the MoDOT building, I need to stop calling it that. This is Opportunity Hall. Yes, Opportunity Hall. So you've been in the ag part upstairs. This is downstairs. This is the new fax room. That's really just half of the new, that's the kitchen portion of Mrs. Ryan's fax room. Just tremendous. I don't know, I mean, I can't imagine there being a much better fax room in our area. This is the other kind of half of that room. That's where class will be. So it's kind of a lecture style area there, and then you've got the kitchen back in that corner, and then back behind the lecture area, you've got student workstations where those tables all can move with the stools, so you can do a lot of group work, a lot of hands-on activities that will be done in that room. So that's been kind of the latest project that's been completed by our crew, and they've done a really nice job with that. All of this fully funded by the DESE grant that we had last year, so all those stoves and countertops, and you guys that built houses, you know what that stuff costs, but we were able to get good quality stuff through that grant without having to dip into our budget any for this.
And that grant has expired?
It has expired. We spent all 500,000 of it, which is exactly what we wanted to do. Still have a few projects we'd like to do, but we're now kind of slowing that down and taking it on a case-by-case basis. Doing what we can in-house, that's the first order of business, so it'll probably slow things down a little bit, but that's okay. This is the welding area at the shop. I'm not a welder, I can't really tell you too much about any of that stuff, other than they've got a lot of nice welding equipment in there and a lot of area where they can work. So the guys weren't there to show me things today, but
I've been in there a
looking
couple
good.
times, and what's interesting, they've had some students, a couple of students in there
Yeah.
working on stuff, building some welding tables, and that blue cart there,
Mhm.
they built. There's a bunch of stuff that they put together themselves. So it's been a good experience this summer for those kids to be involved in that.
Definitely.
Got a golf cart on top?
It is, yeah, that is the FFA golf cart, and it's been raised up so that they can work on it there. Yeah, it's one of our pride and joys there, the FFA golf cart. And then this, we move over to the B building, so really the attention, there's still some work to do in those buildings, but the B building has kind of been a focus here for a little bit. So I don't know how familiar you are with the B building. It's going to become our special education building. So that is a ramp, wheelchair accessible ramp that's been built in the main classroom. That's kind of the middle classroom of the B building. And then there's a at the end of the ramp over here, there's a connecting door to a full classroom. Over here, there's a huge closet area back here and back here. And then we've got another classroom up the ramp over to the right. So all of this building will be designated for special education. And that's gonna be a great space. That enabled us to get rid of those trailers last year, and then we temporarily housed a lot of that in the high school last year, and hopefully soon they'll be able to move in to this building.
Is that the room they gave us the candy in?
Is that the shop built, the
That's-
shop?
It's the old shop.
Yeah, that's where the
Yeah.
shop was.
Yeah, and it
But
was-
but it's over here, isn't it? Or is that it?
Okay,
I
so
think that's
the
it.
shop is behind, it's over here,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
This was
That's the
the,
shop that we went to
Yeah.
school in.
this I think at one time was the ag building,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So this was an art room previously, and we've moved art to the high school where the fax room was. The wood shop is back here across the patio. It's being moved to the old ag building, and then that wood shop will be transformed into part of this sped structure. And the last thing I have for you, this is just kind of a fun thing. West Plains got new turf for their football field, and they were giving away old turf. So thanks to Ethan and our guys, they went and got a few rolls of this turf to put down in a portion of the middle school playground, which is a street, as you know. But we're gonna lay that out, and that'll be an area those kids love to play football on that street. So for at least a portion of the football field, there will be turf there that they can play on. We're really concerned that when we unroll this, there's gonna be a big Z on it.
Yeah.
So we're
Or
gonna
something
have,
red.
we'll have to make sure that we take care of that, if that is the case. I
Let us
see, I
know.
see something up here
We'll come help.
that gives me pause.
Yeah.
And somebody said that would
Yep.
be just like West Plains to throw the, make sure Willow got the Z in the middle of the
Yep.
field, but
That's it.
if it is, we'll cover it up with a bear head or something, but that'll be fun for the kids to play on. A little bit, I mean, it's nothing fancy, but it'll be better than
The price is
the
right.
asphalt. The
No.
price was exactly right, yes.
No McDonald's advertisement on
Yeah.
it.
Well, we don't know yet. We'll see.
Well, there might be. We'll cover it up with a big brand muffin or something.
Yeah.
All right, that's, any questions about any of that? I think I covered everything I wanted to there. So, yep. Policy revisions. You have all of that. We, the policy committee met and went over a lot of this, and I'll pull out just kind of a few of the highlights. There was a lot. Most of these policies are just getting our practice in line with federal and state law. Nothing that, caused us too much concern, but there were a few. The biggest discussion point probably was EF and AC. Those two policies are both food service policies. And if you'll remember our discussion from last year on the food service policy, it's a federal policy from USDA. And they would ask that we change our policy to include, instead of just, we will not discriminate on the basis of sex, they would have us put in parentheses after sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation. Everybody I've talked to has said that the wording of just putting sex there will cover you, but there is an additional coverage adding that, and MSBA, of course, is going to always try to side on caution and putting that in there to avoid lawsuits. However, I've had multiple conversations with MSBA about this topic. We're definitely not the only district that chooses not to adopt that. And so that is something the board can discuss, but the last time this was brought up, we decided to not adopt those two policies and just keep the policies we already have in place.
So will we be voting on those policies in this right here, or are we just doing a revision here?
You will be voting, I mean, whatever you guys choose to do. If we're doing it like we did, if we're choosing to keep those the way they are,
Mhm.
you would vote for, we would make all the recommended policy changes, and those two would not be a recommended policy change, they would stay the same. And that would be my recommendation unless the board has changed their stance on that.
I have not.
Hearing nothing, yeah.
I have not changed my stance.
It won't affect
It won't affect anything we
any
do.
service to any students.
We will not discriminate
Well,
regardless. And this
yeah,
is
never has been.
specifically in the area of foods, we're never going to deny a student a meal. Like, that's just not gonna happen. So, no, it doesn't change anything on how we conduct business. The only thing it changes is we're not putting those exact words in our policy. So,
At this point.
at this point, right. And this is something that MSBA probably is gonna keep coming back every year and saying, you should do this, you should do this. So, as your superintendent, it is my duty to at least give you that option and put that out there that, hey, this is what MSBA recommends. BBF, that's board member ethics. We do this every year, and it's just, it keeps you from having to fill out a bunch of extra stuff as a board member, but that you approve that you're gonna be ethical and do things the right way. And then the only other one that I thought I would highlight was EHBD. That is the framework for a AI policy. And I really thought we already had this in our policy, but it is just the framework. And if you're familiar at all with AI lately, it's changing at a very, very rapid pace. So that gives us a framework to work from, and then we'll kind of tailor that to our needs and what we see on the horizon.
So Andrew's gonna have to explain to us what AI is
Yeah,
basically in the
basically,
future.
yeah, in the future, Andrew's gonna come and tell you what we need to adopt and why. And then Mac or Brent, did you guys have anything you wanted to add from the policy meeting?
Yep, they're all pretty clear cut.
Pretty cut and dry.
Nothing too dramatic in any of them.
Okay.
Any questions concerning any of those? All right,
The FY '26 budget update, again, July 1 is, and I appreciate everybody's flexibility in moving the meeting to July 1, but it's not a great day to have a meeting financially from the district's perspective, just because there's a reason we have meetings the second Monday of the month. That way everything is through and we can kind of look at budget issues. You do have a rough FY '26 budget attached, but it's rough because we're in the process of moving numbers over from FY '25. So it won't be an accurate expenditure and revenue for FY '26 because you still have all of the salaries from FY '25 in there. So it won't accurately tell you what we're looking at for next year. That will be available in August, so I'll have all those numbers for you. In August, we'll have the salaries moved in for FY '26, and that's the biggest portion of our expenditures. So we need those imported into the budget, into our system before we can accurately give you an idea on that.
Did you say the budget was attached to this?
Yes.
We got the general ledger, is that what you're referencing?
That's. Did you, yeah, that's the FY
Is that what
'26
you
budget,
want?
yeah,
The general ledger?
yeah. I don't know what it's,
Well, it's got the board policy
We got
and
the
the
board
budget.
policy and we got the general ledger.
okay, let me look at. So I had you attach this one. Yeah. Yeah, general ledger, all funds, all accounts, yeah. Just to make sure it wasn't like the monthly ledger, but that's the general, that's all accounts.
Okay, so when
Yeah.
we're looking at that, are we looking at this last year's budget in completion, or are we
No,
looking at?
it's
the
FY, it's
projected?
the projected budget, but with the expenditures, it still has all of our salaries listed from FY '25, because we haven't changed those over yet. So the numbers are gonna be out of
Skewed
whack
a little bit.
until we get that in.
Okay.
And when we get that in August, we'll look at all that.
Okay.
Dr. Forrest is coming down later this week or next week to kind of look over all that for us and give us some help on that. In August, the numbers from the state budget will be final, like we talked about, so we'll have that update for you. Our estimates still look good. We're looking probably, it's, again, for FY '25, probably gonna be about 17% with unrestricted fund balance, which is lower than we wanna be, and then back to 20% for FY '26. And again, in August, we'll look at that full model of expenditures and revenues for the next year, and you'll be able to kind of see that difference. So we'll have a new model for you in August. In that August meeting, I'd like to go back to that 5 o'clock work session, for that meeting especially, and then we can kind of see what we want to do for September and beyond. But in August, we'll need to approve the FY '25 amendments, so we'll make sure that FY '25 is actual, and we can put a bow on that, and then we'll approve the FY '26 final draft with all of the numbers
Will we know-
plugged in.
Will we know that 17 or 17.5%, will we know that in August when we finalize that?
You will know it, yes. Now, it won't be official until the auditor
But
comes
nothing,
in.
nothing should change?
Shouldn't,
Oh,
shouldn't,
okay.
yeah, yeah. You know, I hesitate to say that without the auditor coming in and making sure he does what he's gonna do, but, yeah.
You have approving the '26 budget as an action item. We did that.
It should not be, yeah.
And we don't have the board policy, or the policy
I added
changes.
it as.
Okay.
Okay, so, okay,
If you
it's,
refresh it, it should be there.
okay, gotcha.
Refresh and you'll have it.
How do we, how do we refresh?
It's
back
not
in
in the
the-
right format, but it is what it is. I can't fix it.
To
You're good.
refresh it, we,
Just use the little refresh.
Back
button
out
at the
and
side.
get back in.
You can reload it, refresh it. It's up at the top.
Yeah, you will not need to approve any kind of budget tonight.
Right.
That will be August.
all right,
Any other budgetary
got it.
questions for me?
Is that showing now?
Any other questions concerning the budget? We'll have,
August will be very budget
Yeah,
heavy,
yeah,
very budget
we'll have
heavy.
lots of-
Yeah, there'll be lots of numbers to go over, and I know that'll excite some of us.
all right. Then we're on to, the
Surplus property
surplus,
bids.
yeah, bids.
Yep. Just wanna make sure we get Scott back in. Everything good, fellas? Okay. All right, we received 2 bids for our 2 trailers. One bid was from the Kingdom Builder Ministry. Had a good talk with Luke Wake today, and he kind of heads up that ministry. I think it's a really good ministry for our community. And then the other bid was from Daniel Lewis. Daniel Lewis's bid was at $3,500 for both. Kingdom Builders was at $3,000. So Daniel Lewis has the higher bid. I printed off, I went back and looked at the policy on bidding real property not disposed in this way, which is referring to listing the property, may be sold or leased to the highest bidder. The board also reserves the right to reject all bids. So the way I read the policy would say that you can either accept the highest bid or you can reject all bids.
If I, tell me if I'm wrong here, if I read this right, they both could get a trailer, could they not?
That's what I was kind of wondering.
Because they said 2,000, and they said if the other party declines, they'd go 3,500. But if you sold the one for 2,000, they also bid 1,500. Came to the ministry, so it's the same amount.
35, each party gets
Right.
something.
The Kingdom Builders, they wanted both. And so they weren't
They did not want
interested
just
in,
one.
they wanted both.
It said, I mean, doesn't it say 1,500 and a penny for each?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we called
Which would make the-
and asked if they were interested in doing that.
More?
And no, they
They
wanted,
weren't
they
interested in one.
wanted, they wanted both.
Okay. Thought we could.
Yeah, that would have been, and I do think that ministry is a good ministry, and I want to help them out any way we can. We do hope to have another trailer in the near future up for bid. So maybe that would be a possibility, or they can always change, if they want to double back to Mr. Lewis and make him an offer.
Yeah, it sounds like
They could
he's-
certainly do that.
He's willing to.
Yeah, I think he's willing to let them have one if they would like, so.
And he's a super good guy.
We can let them work that out, so.
Yep.
Yeah. So my recommendation would be to take the bid and sell the trailers.
Yeah. The high bid.
Yes.
And you said we have some rooms not being used.
Correct.
As it is, right?
Yeah. Mr. Rogers assures me he has plenty of space for everybody. And it's quite it'll be quite the endeavor for them to get them out of there. But
Well,
I'm
they'd be
anxious
able to get them out.
I'm anxious to watch that happen.
Would they be able to get them out before school starts?
That's what I'm going to strongly encourage, yes.
Are there contingencies on this situation, or?
No.
Strongly encourage them?
But didn't he say?
He said he could,
Could,
yes,
yeah.
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 I mean, we don't have a contract per se, but that's the agreement that he gets them out before school starts.
Be
If he
better.
doesn't, they're not really in the way, and they're not really hurting anything. But it would be nice to get them gone before school starts.
So, and how long's it been since those have been used? Like had students in them regularly?
Oh, they were used
They
last
were
year.
used this last year,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But because we're moving all of our sped,
Yeah, oh, that makes sense.
that we don't
Yeah,
need.
staff reduction in elementary and the movement
Yeah.
of special education has emptied them.
So what trailers do we have left then?
We only have one, or I guess it's
Oh,
the
that's
double,
the
the cat trailer.
Yeah.
And it's not in the best of shape.
We're getting close, aren't we?
Yeah, we're getting, almost, we're
I
almost
think
there.
it was old when I was in school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of surprised that's the sole survivor.
yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, comments from our guest. Then we'll move on to items for action. We need to set a date for our tax levy hearing, which will be at 5:45 PM on Monday, August the 11th. Is there a motion to
So
that
moved.
effect?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And moving on, okay, have you eliminated those?
I will, yes. AC and EF, so
Nice on both.
you're approving the revisions to all policies with the exceptions of AC and EF.
All right. So, a motion would be in order to approve all policies as presented with the exception of AC and EF. Is that right?
Yeah, over here. I don't
Guys,
have
mine's
it.
up.
I don't have one like him.
And then
Yeah, but
Have
it's-
to
Oh.
refresh it.
You gotta refresh it.
Yeah,
So back
Like-
out of it, go back in.
go back, yeah,
like-
go
like-
back.
Like back out all
Yeah.
the way out. That may not be the best way, but.
Well, I already had to log in.
You don't have to log in. That
No,
arrow
it's
up
not,
at
Andrew.
that arrow up at the top that says Board of Education. If you
No.
hit-
Yeah.
I mean-
Updated.
Every time I have to
You got it.
log in,
Okay.
to start with.
Oh,
I thought, once you logged in, if you didn't log out, you were still on. Anyway, go ahead. Believe.
all right. So, a motion to approve policy changes, revisions as presented with the exception of I forgot which one.
AC.
AC
and
and
EF.
EF.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right. And then, a motion would be in order to accept the surplus property bid by Daniel Lewis for the removal of the trailers.
So moved.
Motion's made
Second.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right. Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, motion be in order to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,